Hey, everybody, this is Jack Lord. Welcome to the Wrestling Conversation Monday night. Looking forward to seeing all your comments, questions, submit those. We're going to be taking a real quick talk with Evan Ginzburg, one of the producers of 305, 350 Days, which is one of the better documentaries I've ever seen on professional wrestling. I'm going to go ahead and pre-ask some questions. We're having a little bit of audio difficulties, and Evan's just going to launch right into answering some of those. Um, First off, I would just like to say how much I appreciate him putting this effort out, um, and just wondering, what kind of back scene stories he has. There's so many folks on there that I know. Just talked to Ricky Johnson this morning about some stuff, and love that guy, Bill Eady, so many others. How was it working with these guys? And have you got plans to do something else in the future? Because there's a whole new generation of guys out there with stories to tell, and I love that. I love what you're doing here, and love to see this as kind of a continued thing, maybe down the road. But anyway, if we can bring Evan on and kind of touch on some of those.
Oh, hey, Jack. Thanks for having me on, and I really appreciate the support. I was the associate producer on The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, and I did 5 or 6 casting calls, bringing in many of the guys from The Wrestler, and, the rest is pretty much history. That's going back 12 or 13 years at this point. And Darren Antola, the executive producer of 350 Days, got in touch with me. And prior to that, I had pretty much turned down any wrestling-related projects simply because it's hard to top The Wrestler. But Darren Antola had such, pure spirit in doing this. He was a big mid-'80s Hulkamania era, rock and wrestling era wrestling fan, and along with his team, Fulvio Cesare, the director, and David Wilkins is a producer on it, etc., so on. These guys got together about 90 of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and I'm not going to bore your listeners, viewers, with a list, but just off the top, Superstar Billy Graham, Bret Hart, Greg Valentine, Tito Santana, Ted DiBiase, Ox Baker, who was in your credits and is kind of the comic relief in the movie, believe it or not. And basically for 6 years, we met with these guys, interviewed these guys. They poured their hearts out, and yours truly came on later in the process and helped find the video clips and the relevant photographs and such. And basically, the title, 350 Days, refers to the fact that some of these guys, like a Ric Flair, for example, Ric Flair was on the road 350 days a year. Imagine the toll that takes on your body, your psyche, your marriages, your relationships with your kids. Sorry, I'm not going to be home for Thanksgiving. I'm working the Survivor Series. Sorry, I'm not going to be home for Christmas. I'm working Starcade, etc., so on. Sorry, I'm not going to be there for the birth of our kid, the wedding of our kid, the graduation of our kid, etc., so on. This is a human interest film. Much like The Wrestler, there's maybe 12 or 13 minutes of wrestling in The Wrestler. There's maybe 12 or 13 minutes of boxing in Rocky. We wanted to do something that would touch and move people. Our editor, Michael Burlingame, worked with Paul McCartney, Mariah Carey, John Cougar Mellencamp, Sting. This, worked HBO, the biggest names, on the planet. And he's not a wrestling guy. So when he saw, approximately 90 hours of footage going back 6 years with 90 wrestlers, approximately, he had to hone this into a movie. And eventually we're down to an hour 48. And I said to Mike, make a movie that would make an old woman who never watched wrestling cry. We're not looking for a shoot interview. There's a million shoot interviews. We're not looking for who was the booker in 1972. We were looking for what would this lifestyle, sex, drugs, rock and roll, 350 days a year on the road lifestyle do to a person and their loved ones. And if you think the number's exaggerated, Bret Hart said in an interview he did about 336 days. Greg Valentine, who's a dear friend of mine, said he did about 320 days a year. So obviously everybody had a different schedule. Jack Lord will tell you he was a wrestler. But it's not an exaggeration. These guys were basically never home. Some wrestlers have told me, Evan, I'm always in pain. And as you know, there's been a huge problem with, pain pills and such, and a long trail of wrestlers who are gone before their time. And even in our film, there's a dozen or so wrestlers since filming that are no longer with us. George Steele, the Wolfman, Don Leo Jonathan, Don Fargo, etc., so on. I mean, some of these guys weren't kids, but not everybody lives to a ripe old age in the professional wrestling business. So, I don't want to turn this into a lengthy commercial. So, it's from the heart, the movie, and we put 6 years into making it, 2 years into promoting it. It's out there. You could get the DVD, Blu-ray. You could get it free on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Roku. So whatever works for you, we're proud of it. As for future projects, there's always a future project. I'm working on another book, various screenplays. We're stuck in the middle of this pandemic, just trying to be as creative and hopefully prolific as possible. That's pretty much the story, and I'm sure Jack can tell you from his own experiences, getting in the ring with an injury, in pain, not wanting to lose your spot, etc., so on. It's a tough business. It's a very tough business. And if you watch 350 days, these guys, it's basically like they're sitting on a psychiatrist's chair, pouring their hearts out, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And it's not all grim. I mean, Lanny Poffo will tell you, for example, he saw the world, the entire world, on the promoter's dime. He was everywhere. A lot of these guys, ditto. So, we're very proud of it. And there's some guys who you don't see a lot of that are in the movie. King Kong Mosca, Don Leo Jonathan, etc., so on. So whatever territory you're from, I'm sure we've represented it. We when the smoke cleared, we have about 3 dozen legends in there. And if you want more information, you can go to 350daysthemovie.com. And Jack and the crew are telling me they're having some tech difficulties. So in the event that this is it, in case I'm signing off, I just want to thank them for the support and for the support of the wrestling community. I mean, people have no idea what goes into making a movie. The Wrestler, from start to finish, was 7 years, 5 or 6 script revisions, getting the funding, getting the distribution, casting, etc., so on. It was almost like guerrilla filmmaking, The Wrestler. We did it on $6 million. We wanted 18. $6 million, to give you guys an idea, is like the food budget on the Avengers, okay? So you could make art, on a small budget. And, believe me, 350 days was a lot less than 6 million. So you basically put your heart and soul into something. And when the smoke cleared, we're proud of it, and we think you'll enjoy it. And we thank guys like Jack and the team for their support. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Evan. And I'm going to give a plug, too, for Evan Ginzburg's Old School Wrestling Memories.
Thank you.
Find that on Facebook, follow, and share that with your friends. Thanks, Evan. I appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate it.
I can see your lips moving, but I don't hear you talking.
Here we go. There we go.
There we go.
Here we go. We're back on.
I thought I was going to have to do this by myself.
You were sounding like there for a minute. You were at a baseball place, and you were starting to do the now coming in team 4 from. I don't know why that happened. I don't know.
I don't know either, but we made it through.
We made it through. And do watch 350 Days. A lot of people ask where they could get it. I think he did take care of that.
Yeah. Roku, Tubi. Amazon Prime, of course, you can buy it off Amazon Prime, and I think I got caught up in the echo. But Evan Ginzburg's Old School Wrestling Memories on Facebook, he has a lot of great stuff on there, and he's trying to build that up. If anybody wants to go give that a like, give it a share. We try to help everybody that tries to preserve the history of our industry.
We will try to get Evan on again when we can ask some questions. But I mean, we didn't think you wanted to listen to 30 minutes of echoing. We didn't think you might want to. Let me bring in Rodney West now. Let me put it like this, so we're not all of this.
It'll be up close like that in the 3D there.
All right, now
folks. I was amazed about how long you said it took the wrestler to be produced. That was something. 7 years, absolutely amazing information. I'm sorry we couldn't get some questions in. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out how to get him on here because he said he would have a problem. We were trying. The night we were supposed to have, that was the problem we were having. We could not get him to for some reason, to sound like he was an echo. We couldn't do it. So, but we wanted to bring him on this time and try to figure out how we could make it work this time because he is a very interesting man and he has done a lot of great stuff.
It really is. And 350 days is a great tribute to so many of the wrestlers. And I think that's important, that people see what guys have to go through, men and women, that to entertain.
Well, Jack, we have if people have been watching pro wrestling inside and out, we need to tell them about. You'll go ahead and tell them about about Miss Gail.
Gail James, the wife of Bullet Bob Armstrong, passed away yesterday morning. She had been in declining health for a while, and everybody's been talking about Bob being in bad health, and he really is too. I don't think anybody expected it to happen this soon. They had made some initial plans to come to a reunion that I hosted over the weekend, but Bob just wasn't up to it. I'm sure Gail, he didn't want to be far away from her, but the family got together on Friday and celebrated a couple of months early, but they celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary, which was very important to Bob. He was really wanting to hold out to be able to make it to that. And if you've seen the pictures, it's very emotional. But our hearts and our prayers go out to the family. There's nobody that I know in the wrestling business that ever had a bad word to say about Bob. And if you did, you wouldn't go walk out of the dressing room without getting your butt handed to you, because he was just such a good person and helped everybody he came in contact with. And all his boys are exactly the same, just great guys. They have carried on his legacy, and but she was the cornerstone. She was the one that held everything together, and our hearts and prayers go out to that family.
Yeah, I was in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1988, and they lived across the street from us, and you could see their place from ours, and you could see ours. And one night, I made the mistake. I watched scary movies all night long. Okay, we were off one night, and I watched it all night. Well, about 2:00 in the morning, I have every light on in that house. I'm 17 years old, living in Knoxville, Tennessee, by myself. So I'm sitting there, and all at once, I hear. Scares me to death on the sliding. So there's Bob. Bob. I opened it up. There's Bob standing. And he said, hey, what's wrong? He said, Gail sent me over here. She's seen all these lights on and something wrong. And he said, I wasn't going to come over here, but she would not be quiet. Now, you remember, Bobby's only 17 years old. You need to go over and see why all the lights are on over there. And she sent him over there to make sure I was all right. I'll never forget that. She was like a mother to me while I was there by myself in Knoxville. But she was a very nice lady. Am I correct, Rodney?
Oh, absolutely. I had an opportunity when I was at the circus. I had the chance to go down to Pensacola, and I went over to see Bob and Gail at their apartment. And me and Bob were running around town, and while we were gone, Gail was out getting us something to eat, and we had just a wonderful time. I really cherished that moments we were able to spend with them. Bob took me over to see Adrian Street, and it was a good time.
All right, we're going to say hello to some people right now. Turbo Ted is in the house.
Ted.
How you doing, Ted? Terry Listograph, good evening. Paul Hatchett, I think he just became a Facebook friend with me today. I think it was day could have been yesterday. How you doing? David Lawson, this is the best thing since Monday Night Wars. Well, now we hadn't went to war with someone yet. It could happen one of these days. We could go to war with somebody. You never know with us. We may make somebody mad. By the way, Mike, I think YouTube is playing now. I think it might have been behind a little bit. I think it is playing. And by the way, thank everyone who was watching on YouTube. We have over 600 subscribers. We picked up over 100 subscribers this week alone. Thank you so much for being a part of that. We thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. Mike Shaver said, so glad I can get in here. Well, it is playing now, Mike. So, Pensacola in the house, Bubba Griffith. Where can you find the movie? Jack, I think you've told people where they can find the movie, didn't you?
Yeah, Tubby, Roku, Amazon Prime.
Jay Smith says, I've got to see 350 Days. I've heard plenty about it. I have watched bits and pieces of it, and it's very good. What I have seen of it, it is very good. There's old Richard Dye. How you doing?
Richie!
As you die. It is good to hear from you, Richard Dye, and it's been a while. All right, Jordan said, Brent, can you tell some stories about the Cleveland Army Promotional War? I heard from my uncle about it. I'm not for sure. I don't know. Did we have a Cleveland Army Promotional War at some point?
I don't remember one, but I only hit town when you booked me, so.
I don't know.
This is way back. This is before our time, really.
Yeah, it was way back.
They were doing it at the the Cooley building here in Cleveland. So the Army was way before our time.
Let us know what time you're talking about, what year you're talking about, and that may help us out a little bit. Randy said, "What's going on, Richie? Richie Dye here, Randy Coots over there wanting to say hello to you."
Randy Rogers used to be tag partners with Mike Mason. You guys remember him?
Yes, I know him well.
Great
Very
talent.
good wrestler. Very talented. Hey, Richie Dye said he was just laying around getting old.
Oh.
I won't go through their conversation here. I don't think people might know what it is. Chuck said, I have done shows with Brian and Steve. Super great guys and share a lot about the business. Very good family, a very nice family, and understand the wrestling business, no doubt. Paul Hatchett said, want to say thanks to all the guys and girls who showed up for the reunion and show Saturday night. It was awesome to see all the mentors and friends and families. Thanks to Jack Lord for all the hard work he puts in keeping our business together. Jack Bennett. Howdy, Jack.
Hey, Jack.
And Paul Hatchett did say, God bless the Armstrong family. Chuck said he wished he could have made the reunion.
Well, a lot of people couldn't make it, because of what we're going through. We're going to be March 20th, I believe, of next year is the date. If you're in that closed Facebook book group, I posted the dates yesterday. Hopefully, we'll be back to normal and we can be on schedule next year.
Jason Weeks. What's up, guys? How you doing, Jason?
Jason Valentine.
Yes. And the mask Infernos, one of the masked Infernos. That was some good. Rodney, you got to admit, they were great.
They were good. They were real good. We still don't know what that meant, but okay.
What did that mean?
I don't know. I think they had a third eye. I don't know.
I actually, Bobby Hayes made the reunion, and I asked him, and I'll be honest, it's not that bad, but I don't know how to make a clean version of what it means. So I'll tell you off there.
Oh, well, we don't know.
Yeah, maybe we don't want to know
it's not dirty. It's just it's kind of it's a high school type thing. So like I say, I'll fill you in later.
The other Rodney West is what's up, guys. Sorry to hear about Bob's wife. Yeah, that was pretty sad, and it's Gail was such a nice woman. I mean, she really was she was so good, and there's no doubt. Michael, how do you say that name? Halton. Cheers to all.
Hey, buddy.
He said, "Are the West boys ever going to age? Y'all still younger forever?" It just you spend a lot of money to keep yourself young.
Right.
Jordan said it was 10 years ago. You'd have a promotion around the Army on Saturday, and they would not allow any other promotions. That may be why we haven't had any Army shows in years. I don't know. Unfortunately, if it happened in the wrestling business for the last 14, 16 years, I probably don't know much about it, because once we got into the circus business, and in just a moment, we're going to talk to the man who put us in the circus business, CM, and we can blame him or either way you look at it. Anyway,
well, now that he's put that in a time perspective, I do remember a couple of shows kind of slugging it out there, running against each other. And I'm not sure if they both tried to run the Armory or one ran close, but it came to the point, from what I remember, they were even trying to run on the same Saturday night at one point.
Wow.
Now, you can tell that if there hadn't been wrestling in Cleveland, Tennessee in that many years, neither one won that little battle.
That's probably the reason they're not wrestling there now, because there's not been wrestling in the Army in a long time.
There's smart ways to run wrestling, and that's not one of them.
Oh, Steve Carr said, "Hey, Jack."
Hey, Stevie. Stevie, one of the best dang referees and wrestlers I ever had on a card.
Jason said, "We made it famous." I guess they made that famous.
He did. I never had so many people complain in my life. I don't know what they're doing, but I know that ain't right.
Tammy Elkins Taylor said, "Hey, boys, how you doing, Tammy? Good to hear from you, and long-time wrestling fan and Continental Championship Wrestling, Southeastern Championship Wrestling." Jack Bennett said, "We got 3 ACW alumni representing here." I wanted to talk about some things that we're going to talk about next week. We've talked about this, and we've talked about Hulk Hogan just for a real small time, but I want to go into detail next week about how hard he had it getting into the wrestling business, and how badly he wanted it, and how he stayed around to get there. Don't you agree, Rodney, that he took all the beatings to get there?
Of course. And that's what you have to do. And then there was a lot of false starts, but he just kept coming back, and it paid off in the end. And that's just that persistence and wanting to be better and wanting to get better. And he did get better. I was just watching some WWF stuff when he was managed by Fred Blassie in that first part. And, the people already, looked like a star. He was huge. He looked like a star already. And of course, it was that movie with Sylvester Stallone, the Rocky movie, that really put it over the top for him. Without that movie, who knows?
Let's see what Paul Hatchett said. "I had the privilege of working with Bob and Brad Armstrong at the RCW in Chatsworth, Georgia. Is that Renegade Championship Wrestling?"
It is.
a year before Brad passed. Great memories from that night. Brad Armstrong, if you were in the dressing room with him, you were even in the room with him anywhere, you were going to remember that because he was going to make you remember that time. Richard Dye said, Jack, did your cigars ever get there?
No, not yet. He posted a picture of like a huge truck that looked like a cigar being towed behind it. He said he was sending it my way. I'm still waiting, Richie. I've got matches.
Jason said, did Ulk ever work in Continental? He wasn't Continental, but he did wrestle for Southeastern Championship.
Southeastern.
And had some big sellouts there. And that's the one thing I want to talk about, not next episode, but somewhere down the line, we're going to talk about exactly how much he did draw in his first year. There someone actually pushed him, and that was Louis Tilley that actually pushed him and gave him his big start in Southeastern Championship Wrestling. So we will get into that. And in just a moment, we're going to bring in CM. He's going to tell you a little bit about some history with the Carnivals and wrestling and his experiences. He was a promoter for World Championship Wrestling and a couple other wrestling organizations, and we'll get to him in just a moment. Let's see. Jack Bennett, did also miss working with you, bro. I think he's talking to you, Jack. Let's see. Michael said Hogan really worked hard in Japan. He had some asterisks, so I won't play what he had on there. But all right, let's go ahead. Well, we had CM and he disappeared. Well, I was going to see him, but he disappeared all at once. I don't know where he went, but he disappeared. But maybe he'll be back in just a moment. Anything that we need to talk about before he gets back on that we need to take care of tonight?
I'm sure as soon as we go off the air, I'll think of 100 things.
Well, the one thing that we do need to talk about really quickly is the intensive camp that's going to happen on August 8th and 9th, 2020 at the Jacobs Prichard Wrestling Academy. Les Thatcher and Dr. Tom Prichard will be doing a 2-day training seminar. Two of the top trainers in the world, over 100 years of experiences. You'll learn about psychology, ring awareness, promo skills. There's that word promo, so that's the new word.
That's the new version.
That's new words for the new wrestling fans. But they said you can email jpwrestlingacademy@gmail.com and learn more about it and set yourself up. I think if you're a professional wrestler, you owe it to yourself to get there, because what's $99 per person for 2 days?
Well, let me jump in on that just a second too, because I am real big on these seminars. It's amazing the things that you can learn. I don't care if you're seasoned. I don't care if you're just starting out. The stuff you can learn from people who have been there and done that, I can't emphasize enough how important that is. And I'm telling you, when I get resumes, and I do them almost daily, people want me to book them on shows, I look for that. You know, how many seminars have you been to? I had a young man come in a couple of weeks ago to the show in Rome. I only had one match under his belt. And he walked in and he said, I don't have any experience. I've got one match. I've been trained by WWA 4 out of Atlanta, which is a very good school. And he said, but I have this long list of training seminars that I have gone to. And I said, come on in. I'm going to put you on the card. We're going to see what you can do. Now, if he had come in without that, I might have, put him off a few weeks, got him in the ring beforehand. But those seminars taught me or showed me that he was willing to put some effort out that most don't. So put that effort out there, guys. I mean, you got to learn, and you never quit learning. Saturday was 45 years for me, and I get up every morning wanting to learn something new in this business.
And there's always something to learn in it, because it's always been changing. I mean, the wrestling business changed from the time we grew up in it to what it is now. So there's always something different to learn. And just because me and Rodney and Jack may like sometimes old school wrestling, basically, well, that's not maybe what they're watching and looking for and All Elite Wrestling. I always forget the name of the wrestling company. All Elite Wrestling, WWE. But Tom Prichard and Les Thatcher can tell you what they're looking for because they were the training people for them for years. So you're going to learn what you need to know, what to get you to wrestling today, and what they're looking for when you go and you get a tryout for them. They're going to let you know how to get there. So make sure you get in touch with them and sign up for that. I mean, $99 for 2 days. I don't know how long. Did they say how long? I didn't read on that. Did it say how long that was? 8 hours?
I didn't catch, but I'm telling you, you're going to get your money's worth, whether it's a total of an hour or 20 hours. You're going to learn.
Tammy said that she wants us to go wrestle and she manage.
Hey, I know a guy.
Well, let me tell you that I will be 50 soon, and I'm not taking no bumps. I'm sorry, I didn't take no bumps at 28. I was early taking one at 50. Joe Hogan said, "I have 25 years under my belt, but I always interest in what people have to say." How you doing, Joe Hogan? When we quit listening, we quit learning. Exactly, and there's always something to learn from people. I mean, we would drive down the road and learn something by Dutch Mantell. Then we learned something from Dick Murdoch. Then we learned something from Wrestling 2. And we even learned from Jacques Rougeau. We learned from him, And so you learn from everybody back in those days. So good to see you, Joe. And let's see, Bristol. Hey, guys, do you think referees should go to seminars? Yes.
Yes. Most definitely.
I believe you need to know, and regardless if they're teaching you something at that point that's for you, you need to know what those guys are going to do. I think one of the worst things in wrestling today is people not knowing the moves, and that's the reason they come over looking so bad. I mean, how can you call a spot? Well, okay, they don't really call spots, I don't guess, today in the ring. But years ago, if you didn't know the moves, it's going to be messed up when you went out there and did it. So yeah, I think if you're a referee, sign up for the training. I think it'll be good for you.
Well, I got spoiled with your dad. I mean, your dad showed me that the referee is every bit as important as the guys that are in there locking up. And he saved some awful matches that I was having a lot of times by just getting in my ear and telling me what to do. And it's important that referees, do their part. They're not just putting a shirt on and going in there. You got to be good.
Well, Rodney can tell you that Dad many times he would do the direction. He would do direction.
Well, you can watch him. If you're watching him referee, you can see that he's calling everything they're doing. You can see you can see he's right up about him, and he's doing all the point, but he's telling them exactly what they're doing. I watched him. We're going over Mid-South. He's refereeing. He's doing the exact same thing. He's letting them know what's coming up, what they need to do. It's very important, and very important to have one who knows how to do that.
Yep.
Paul said, I have 18 years under my belt, and I learn something new all the time. And
he did learn how to not fall off a ladder today, but other than that.
Oh, did he get hurt today?
Yeah, he's trying to claim injury. I told him we were off for 2 weeks. He better have that striped shirt on.
Amen to that. Even today, you need to be open-minded and willing to change. It's part of the evolution and personal growth. I think that what Tom and Les is going to show you is the fundamentals. They're going to tell you where you're going to go when you get to a point you don't know where to go. They're going to show you how to get back to those fundamentals so you just don't look like I've seen guys have matches, and when their spots didn't go right, the rest of their match went horrible. Instead of going back to the basics of wrestling and going back to the fundamentals, the rest of the match is just horrible. So let's see. There's Charles.
Hey.
You're talking about a referee.
There you go, the referee.
The referee.
Yeah,
we ran around with his father and Red, and that was some of the best times in my life, was running around with Charlie McGowan and Red. Those were such great times, and I cherish them every day. And Charles said Scrappy McGowan, and people probably know him as referee Scrappy McGowan, had a good teacher, Ron West. Thank you so much.
I saw you refereeing the other day. You was in Florida. I saw you on a Championship Wrestling Florida tape.
He was a great referee. Joe Hogan, Thatcher, and Prichard will be a great seminar. They really will be. So please. Evidently, CM had a problem getting back on.
Oh, that's terrible.
He was on, then all at once he went off. So Richard Dice, I remember a seminar that I took my son to that Les was putting on at Woody's. I sat back and laughed my butt off watching all those hot spot throwing up. Les said, finish up and get back over there. Oh, so he had them. I guess he had them all. Did you make them run for 30 miles before? Is that what?
Well, Les just he makes you learn, and he's not there to be your buddy. He's there to make you learn, and I love that. I love that about Les.
Tim said, hi, everybody. A hustler in the house.
Hey, man. Don't forget your gear next time.
Well, now, did he show up Saturday and didn't have no gear?
He did. He came for the reunion. He ate all the food, and then he sat on the couch in the office like he was dying.
Oh.
Always bring your gear. You never know when they're going to give you $5 to get in and wrestle. So
that's right. I'm going to charge him 10 next time.
Or a hot dog. Anything like that. Whatever's available for you to get. Scrappy, Chris Studdard says, Scrappy, one of the best, right up there with Ron West. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, he was. Nick Patrick, I put Nick Patrick right there in that same category.
Amen.
Ben. I want to say hello. I think I missed her. 100 Hindu squats is what they make you do, evidently. But you need to be in shape. There's nothing worse than watching a wrestler go in there in 5 minutes within the match. He is sucking wind, and it's kind of embarrassing. I want to say hello to Kitty. How would you say that last name?
Nior.
I missed her way up there, and I apologize for missing you as we. I think I kept on hitting, and I just passed you by. Sorry about that. Joe Hogan, I sold Hustler some boots one time, and I know he has boots.
Oh, okay. Well, nowadays you don't really need.
I made him some tights 30 years ago, and he still ain't got them dirty. I'm not saying he don't bump much, but.
We'll tell you now, if you want a good wrestler, Joe Hogan, he is a great wrestler. One of the best when we did the Wrestle Birmingham last time. I won't go into the rest of some of the people that were there, but Joe was pretty good. That was a bad experience. I don't even want to. I'd tried not to even think about those experiences.
I had fun. I got to yell at people, so I was happy.
Oh man! Me and Rodney left there thinking, I don't know if we ever want to do this.
When I left there thinking, all I was thinking is, hey, the barbecue was fantastic.
It was not a good experience.
Oh, yeah. We went to the Dreamland barbecue while I was down there. Worth every trip and every problem. Solved by barbecue from Dreamland.
David Lawson, speaking of refs, when do refs know it's time to switch territories? Saw your dad all over, saw Scrappy in different territories as well. I think it was whenever he actually he was fired in Georgia, so he pretty well knew that it was time for him to leave there. So when you get fired, you pretty well know that's the end of your. I think Dad he just went where he could make more money. I think that's just. He just came down to that.
And your dad was, he wasn't just refereeing. He was always in the office too. So, that's where those needs came up, and whoever was willing to pay more, he went to.
Joe Hogan, thanks, Brent. Well, thank you. You are a very. There's no doubt you are a very professional person. He was professional to work with, and we can't always say that about every wrestler that we've ever worked with, but there's no doubt Joe Hogan. So when things get going, book Joe Hogan. He is a very professional person, listens to what you have to say, and it's very important in the wrestling business. Don't act like you know everything. There was somebody on that card, and I'm not going to say no names, James Storm, that believed that he knew everything. He thinks he knows the wrestling business, and unfortunately, he doesn't. He's I have to give him. He's talented.
Oh yeah.
but sometimes he ran his mouth where it didn't need to be ran.
I'll just tell you the truth. He thought he was too good to be there.
Yeah.
He thought he was too good to be there.
You know.
Oh, hello.
Hey, do you have any thoughts? She ran in and
that was my daughter. My daughter had to steal a kiss.
Scrub said money was everything, but it was guys in the territory that made it fun. I agree. And Georgia Championship Wrestling, Dad, that was his favorite wrestling company to work for. It was Georgia Championship Wrestling. I don't know that he ever liked another territory as much as he liked Georgia. He really enjoyed it there. J.C. Bowman, how you doing, J.C.? Ronnie was one of the best wrestlers ever. People don't know he was an actor on the old Daniel Boone series. Yeah, very small version, and my grandfather was as well. So we've got a picture somewhere. We'll try to put
yeah, we got one of them
of that.
But Buddy Epson and all of them on it.
Joe Hogan says got to work on some shows with Ronnie. Loved talking with him. He could tell you some stories.
It sure can.
You know, right now let's bring in CM has returned, and let's bring on CM right now to the show.
Hey, Buddy Epson and all of them on it.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Joe Hogan says got to work on some shows with Ronnie and loved talking with him. He can tell you some stories. I think
Sure can.
we're hearing us come back on you. So you have to turn down your. And let's bring on CM right now to the show.
Hey, Buddy Epson and all of them on it.
But we're going to have to remove him. I was hearing myself talk back. Yeah, CM, if you could turn down your computer or something.
He's got us on YouTube as well. If he shuts off YouTube and just watch from here, I think that's
all right. Yeah, just shut down YouTube if you can.
Or Facebook, whichever one he's got going there. That'll help out. We're a slight delay. I think YouTube's slight delay tonight.
I believe it is. We talked about that when we got Evan on there. Some days you have technical difficulty days.
Whatever. Every day we have technical difficulties.
This is great. All right, let's see if we can see him back on.
We're a
How you doing,
slight
guys?
delay. I think YouTube's a slight delay tonight.
I believe it is. We talked about it when we got Evan on there. Some days, see, we're still getting we can hear us way back afterwards. We might have to work on that and get that. We have to work on that and figure out why we're getting the delay. We're hearing you. So if you've got Facebook or you got YouTube on, just turn that off because it don't need to be on. And because we're hearing whatever we're saying back to us. Is that much of a delay on the?
Yeah, there is.
I've never really seen that part of it, so I didn't know it was that much of a delay. Richard Dye said, "Get off, poor Tim." Me and him did a doubles.
Hustler.
I think I'll pass by.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might need to read this stuff before I put it up here.
It's G-rated there, buddy.
We at least try to be PG.
He did break his leg. Cage broke the leg.
Joe Hogan said, "Great to see Rodney on here. First night I have tuned in." Well, thank you, Joe. Now you tuned in the first night. We're having some technical difficulties. One night we were talking to Charlie Platt. Charlie couldn't hear me.
That's right. That was fun. I enjoyed translating what you had to say to him.
All right, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to see him and see
one more time.
We're gonna try it one more time. You know, that's what you do. And when you're in the wrestling business, just try over and over again. Okay, let's try one more time. Make sure. All right, CM.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, there he is.
There we go.
We can hear you now.
Great. I came in at the time you told me, and I was backstage twice. And for some reason, I had to reboot the computer, one of those technical things.
Yeah.
So I'm a little late. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. All right, your dogs are they're ready for it. You've got to tell us some stories about your experiences in professional wrestling and how it all goes together with the carnival business.
Well, I think that, first of all, there's a symbiotic relationship between circuses and carnivals.
Here, first night in the well, thank you, Joe.
In the wrestling business, and a lot of guys got their start in what we call shows, athletic shows. And when we do a whole show, we're going to go through everything from the athletic show, and it takes me a while to tell these stories because I got to build a structure for people that don't know the background so they understand what we're trying to talk about. But everything from Maurice Tillet, the Angel, through wrestling chimpanzees and bears. So that ought to give us a good, and of course, shows, as I said.
You know, I think wrestling fans don't really understand how wrestling got started in the carnivals and how they got the lingo from there.
Well, I think, first of all, how did they get started? Most of the territories closed in the summertime way back when because there was no air conditioning. And so the boys had to work. So they'd either go to work on a circus, which when we have time, I'll explain that because it's different than the carnival, or they go wrestle on a carnival.
So they wrestled at a circus and a carnival, not just a carnival.
Both places. The circus was what we call a concert. It's an after show. So you just had one stick, and if you got three guys, they had a way to pick them out. So you got your guy. On the carnival, most of the time, they were either sticks or guys that they made into plants because, shoots aren't any good. These guys, old-time guys, were all hookers. They were all submission guys. And if they had to go, it'd be over in 30 seconds. It stinks. Nobody's going to want to come back in because that was the secret of those things. Nobody wanted to be around one of those things because you get them in and send them back out again. Bring them back in. It's the same old philosophy. You book the match, you book the rematch, and you book the program. Yeah. And that would go on, and it's kind of booking on the fly. They had a basic idea of what they're going to do, but it depends. And once in a while, they would get a guy that'd have to go in and stretch, but they tried to avoid that at all costs because it wasn't good for business, that's all.
I don't think people understood that when you're saying a stick in there, you're talking about a guy that the promotion or the promoter put into to the crowd, right?
Right. So in other words, you'd be working with their own guys.
But the fans, the other fans had no clue this was going on.
The fans had no idea, of course.
That's the reason. Back in those days, they called wrestling fans marks, correct?
Well, you on one of your programs that I saw, you explained, how the word mark started. It also relegated to the old days of railroad hobos, because if they were bumming, or trying to get food somewhere, it was a different world. They really weren't violent people. They were just people out riding the rails. But if they found a house that would give them food or something, they'd put a mark on the sidewalk. So then they knew that house would be good to, there'd be some old lady or something that would give them some food.
Wow. And this is where wrestling, I guess the people that promoted wrestling, that's where they picked up that word.
I don't know. I would think so. I would think the hobos came first.
But it's nothing that wrestling promoters came up with. It was basically something they picked up from the carnival and circus business.
Yeah, I would think, just like the language. I told you the funny story the other night, or at least I thought it was funny. I was, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I was in doing some business with a guy, and he was the owner of the company. He takes me in the dressing room so we can discuss some things. And the guys all start to kayfabe me and talking Carney, and he turned around, looked at him, and said, "Forget it, guys. He speaks it better than you do."
I want to show some pictures to see.
But that shows you how smart is somebody that the owner brings you into the dressing room and you're sitting there talking, and they think that you're not with it. If
yeah. But see, a lot of people don't understand that word kayfabe was actually just a word, basically, at the time, wasn't it? It was just something to say if somebody came through the room that.
Sure.
But it turned into something more for some reason during the years.
Yeah, at one time it was just to be quiet, or dummy up. Don't, so nobody knows what you're talking. Don't talk in front of them, in other words.
But eventually, for some reason, it became more of a word in wrestling. But even when we were in the territory, is all it really meant. Somebody you might be talking about it in the dressing room, and for some reason, the guy that's working at that's going to clean the building was walking through, and you didn't use
somebody holler out kayfabe, and everybody dummy up.
So and the carny was a little different because it wasn't just kayfabe, correct? There was more to it than that.
I never heard that word used in a carnival. Of course, I told you the other night I never saw an hat show because there was only two that I even knew of that were left when I started when I was 16, so I did a couple summers as a summer job, and then when I got out of school. There was only by 1967, 8, they were about all gone. There was a guy named Barron that had one, and a guy named Indian John Snyder. And those were the only guys I knew that still had an that show.
I want to show some pictures of CM in action and a couple of things, so you can just see him in action of what he did. Here's a picture of him. Did you do something with those?
Well, not with those. But when I was a kid, I did a knife throwing act.
Okay, I've just seen those. I thought, well, I'll just see him doing it with this.
No, that was from a movie that we did.
Okay, and here's a picture with him. Who's the guy? It's Penn and Teller. So who's the guy in the middle there? Gillette, is that his name?
That's Penn. Yeah, that's Tommy and Penn and Bill Carter.
Yeah, and then here's another picture of him. That's he is on the what do they call that? They call that an area of the.
They call it the Valley stage, which
and this
all what they call Valley shows, not shows that operated with a continual tape grind, but Valley shows would all have a platform. The ad shows would have a platform.
Which is still done today in WWE. For wrestling fans that want to know, they call it the Ballyhoo and WWE. The beginning of their show is what they call that.
Well, if I ever heard somebody work for me say Ballyhoo, hurry, or step right up, I used to tell them you're fired. I'd say, I ever hear you say those words, this is the real world, not Hollywood Central Casting.
Is that something that just didn't? Is that like some of the things in the wrestling business you just did not say in the?
Well, it's like saying I'm an amateur. It's not the professional way to do it.
I got you. See, that's the thing about the wrestling lingo. Wrestling people like to use it, but really they probably shouldn't have used it. Because they get in the habit of using it. Am I correct, Jack? Sometimes people get into too much of a habit in using the lingo of wrestling.
Yeah, it's also one of the best ways to sort out people that don't belong in the business now, because these young kids come in trying to talk it, and I'm like, get out.
Yeah, and the carnival language that nobody, even when I was young, you hardly ever heard it. But I knew guys in the wrestling business, they thought that it came from the wrestling business. But it didn't. It came from the carnival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know the history of wrestling, basically. And I've always said, if you're going to be in the wrestling business, you might want to know the history of wrestling and know where it came from the beginning until where it is now. That way, at least you've got an idea, you've got a scope of where wrestling started at.
There's an awful lot of guys that started in ad shows. Red Bastien, I made a little list of things. Ronnie Etchison, Red Bastien, Jody and his brother worked for Gus Karras, who had a carnival, Billy Wicks, Freddie Blassie, Frankie Kane. There's a lot of guys that started in that part of the world.
how did you get started promoting wrestling? Because I know you in World Championship Wrestling, you were there when Dad was booking at the time. So how did you get started in promoting wrestling?
Well, your dad wasn't booking at the time. He was one of the promoters.
Okay.
We were the only two guys that could get out of our own way, because your dad and I were probably a lot alike in one way. If maybe your dad probably could do it, but if I had to work in the office up there, I would maybe lasted till lunch. Send me out and tell me what you want, and I'll deliver. But I'm not much of an office politician.
Well, I can tell you, one of the greatest promoters in the history of promotion. Am I right, Rodney?
You're exactly right. He knew what he was doing. You knew he was going to have a big house if CM was promoting his show.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a little story about your dad. And I loved your dad to death. But when something was wrong, they would either send your dad to fix it. They would never tell you, say, you need to wrap up because tomorrow morning we want to send you over here because her didn't have any idea what you're going to fix. And one time they sent me and your dad. It was so screwed up. And we had a system because, out on the road it gets lonely, and your dad and I, we just hit it off with everything. So we'd split a room so we could sit there and talk and, have a little camaraderie. But we would map our day out because we didn't have cell phones back then. And what each of us was going to do, and then meet at lunchtime and remap out what we were going to do for the rest of the day. So the night that, I think it was Kansas City or something, it was a mess. But in a day and a half or 2 days, we got it straightened out. And we walk into the building, and the boys see us together. And the other guy that screwed it up is still there. Why they had him there, I don't know. And your father takes a running bleep down the hallway, about 200 feet. And he's got the guy down on the floor by the throat. That's a true story. But when we walked in, the boys turned around and said, "Boy, this one must have been screwed up. They sent in the dream team."
Well, there's no doubt y'all had you did some extraordinary things promotion-wise for World Championship Wrestling back then. A lot of people might not know this, but the Halloween Havoc that took place with Abdullah got electrocuted, and then the show, CM was very instrumental in getting that crowd in there.
Where was that? No.
It was in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
No, it wouldn't have been me then. I never did Chattanooga.
You never did Chattanooga?
No.
Well, I thought you did take care of Chattanooga.
No, I remember that I had only done one, and I had two in the cooker and two working, because when I first went there, Jody helped me get in the door, and Jody and Ole. And so once I got in the door a little bit, I talked to the head guy. He said, "Well, I'll give you 3 dates, see what you got." And I said, "That's good." So I had done one, had the other 2 cooking. And Crockett calls me on the phone, and he said, "They just gave you the pay-per-view." And I said, "Well, the pay-per-view is 31 days out." And I said, "Well, good. Fax me what's been done and let me, see what I can start getting done." And he said, "I don't need to do that." I said, "Well, at least tell me what needs to be done, or what has been done, because I thought they fired somebody. I'm new. I don't know." And he said, "Nothing." I said, "You want me to go into a town that we're on a UHF station that's so bad that don't even have any ratings, and 31 days out, and go into a WWF town and nothing's been done?" So I was in Columbus, Georgia. I flew to New Orleans to NAPTE, made a deal with the head guy to go to Phoenix. And I did Amarillo. I told him, I said, I can't spend a month in Phoenix without, getting paid for some other dates. I said, you got Amarillo and Lubbock. Let me have those two. But you're going to have to send somebody in to take care of them. I'll set it all up, but you'll have to send somebody in to take care of them. And they sent your dad in to take care of them. And I spent almost a month in Phoenix. But when I went to see the promotional director of the building, she's got an autographed picture of Hulk Hogan on her desk, and she said, "This is a WWF town. What are you doing here?" So that's the old saying of you're in trouble when.
Yeah.
We never went back, and the next day, from the main radio station that we needed. The guy came in the room and started to dictate policy. You're going to spend this much. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. And David Crockett's sitting there, and I said, what I'm going to do is tell you to get out of my damn room.
Yeah.
And I threw the guy out of the room.
You do it.
And David said, what are you doing? I said, Vince is coming. He said, no, he's not. You're nuts. I said, no, I'm not nuts. That was the payoff. I know. So I found a number 2 station who was trying to be number 1, and they were close. And I got the GSM. I got him in the room. I said, "You want to make $1,500 on the side?" I said, "I ain't got enough time to figure this town out by myself." I said, "Walk me through the town." And he got me all the right sales reps at all the right places. We had a deal with 7-Eleven. All the stores in Phoenix had a special poster. We had special posters made.
Way to do it.
I got that deal up.
Yeah, that's the way to do it right there.
We didn't do really, really great, but we shouldn't have been in that town to begin with. And because of the Hispanic population, Joe Blanchard was moving the ring for him, and I asked Joe, I said, you do business with Luberoff all the time and get, when he's down in the valley and gets Mexican off Telemundo names. I said, can you get me some names? I said, just, for an open and dark match, but for local flavor, local draw, we need some Mexicans. So I said, figure out how much it's going to cost. And I went to Dusty, and I always made Dusty's TVs look good, even though I'd only done two or three, whatever. But I asked him, he said, well, if you want Mexicans, get your own Mexican. So that's when I called Joe. He came back with what it would cost. I took it to the head guy, and he okayed it, and it was a match of the night. And plus it helped the box office a lot.
Sure.
Because they promoted it on the local, did the inserts on the local Mexicans wrestling, which had much better ratings than we did.
Well, CM, we are running out of time.
Well, that's my fault because I had a technical.
That's all right. That's fine.
You guys were talking over each other all night. I don't know why. For some reason, somebody talk and then there was some kind of delay there or something.
Oh.
There's no telling with StreamYard what can go on StreamYard. All right, CM, thank you so much.
All right.
We're going to close the show, and we're going to bring you back on July 7th. He will be 1 hour, and he will tell you all the stories of Carnival, wrestling, and all put together.
Oh, that's going to be a blast. And I want to tell you guys, I personally appreciate what you guys do. It's and I'll explain this when we've got the time. That the carnival business that I got into when I was a kid has nothing to do with what it is today. It's very much like the wrestling business isn't anything like it was in 1967 or 66.
Yeah.
So things change, and I appreciate what you guys do, keeping the old memories alive, and it's really nice that you do that.
Well, thank you so much, CM, and put that down on your calendars. July 7th, he will be with us for 1 hour. And
okay, are we doing? because the last email you sent me, you said Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, you'll come on Monday for about 10 minutes again and give us a little bit of give us a little bit of tease of what you're going to talk about.
Preview.
We'll do the old preview.
That's right.
All right, thank you so much.
In other words, we'll make the bally on.
I didn't want to use that word because last time I got told off for it.
You get fired for that.
No, you can't. You can't say ballyhoo. You can say bally because that's the name of the stage. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay, I got you. All right, I didn't.
All right.
I got in trouble last time. I was afraid to say that again. So.
No, I didn't get in trouble. I was just telling you what I trained people the way I was trained when I was a kid. But I got a lot of stories. Some of them are older stories that are stories that I'm telling that were told to me by guys when I was 20 that were 60.
Yeah. Well, that's the stories.
I think they're fun stories. They're fun stories.
Well, that's the stories we want to hear. We want to hear about the history of professional wrestling, and this will probably be the only place, Pro Wrestling Inside and Out, that you'll be able to hear those stories. There's not many people left like CM that can tell you the stories about those things. CM, thank you so much. We're going to take you off here, and we're going to close the show.
Very good. Thank you.
Guys, that's going to be very interesting. You got to remember, CM is when he tells you the stories, he's going to tell you the stories when he starts telling you the stories. It's going to be stories that you probably never heard of on any platform. So July 7th, make sure you write that down because it's going to be stories that you've never heard. Before we go, Jack, is there anything that we're missing tonight that we need to tell people about?
No, just again, remember Bob Armstrong family in prayer. My Bruno Sammartino shirt, WWEshop.com. They do have some of the old guys on there that, I love keeping those guys' memory alive. And that's about the only WWE plug you'll ever get from me, but we'll get one.
All right, Rodney, anything that you
We've already said all there needs to be said, although come to watch us on the Mid-South Wrestling starting on every Friday night on the YouTube channel.
And if you, I almost forgot, you always got to do if you have not liked and subscribe. All right, if you have not liked and shared on Facebook, please do so. And if you've not gave us a thumbs up and subscribed on YouTube, please do so. We have grown on YouTube, and we thank you so much. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Rodney. We want to thank Evan. We want to thank CM for being a part of the episode. And we will see everybody tomorrow night. We will be talking about Brad Armstrong. Me and Jack Lord will be going over, I think we're part 2 or part 3. I can't remember now, but we
Part 3.
Part 3 of Brad Armstrong. And that's tomorrow night right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. Thank you so much, and we will see you then.